There are 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body. The first circle is within the belly. The second circle is in the area of the heart. The third is in the area of the lungs. The fourth is on the palate. The fifth is between the eyebrows. And the highest, the 6th circle, is above the brain. One has to fix his mind and the circulation of the vital air, and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. It is clearly stated, Vaikuntha Leela. Leela means pastimes. Unless the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, has transcendental activities, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? It is through the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that one can achieve this concentration. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationships with different devotees. The Vedic literatures contain many narrations of the Lord's pastimes, including the Battle of Kurukshetra and historical facts relating to the life and precepts of devotees like Prahalad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and Ambarish Maharaj. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Then he will be in Samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. It is the state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here we are seeing Lord Kapila instructing his mother on process of yoga. And we have been seeing how he was telling about practicing the asanas and achieving perfection in the asana and the pranayama, and withdrawing the senses from the sense objects and focusing the mind. And in this verse, Swadishyanam ekadeshe manasa pranadharanam. And he's talking about pranadharanam, manasa pranadharanam, fixing the mind, the vital air on the 6 circles of vital air circulation. Swadishyanam, referring to the 6 chakras. This is known as the Shat Chakra Yoga. There are 6 air circles of air in the body for the subtle prana, and to fix the circulation of the air. And in this way, the mind becomes focused. And then Kapila is saying, when the mind has become fixed in that way, the mind should be absorbed in Vaikuntha Leela. Vaikuntha Leela Abhidhyanam. Should be absorbed in thinking of the pastimes of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And this is known as Samadhi. So, in the purport, Prabhupada has listed the different 6 Shat Chakras in the body. This is the process of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, that is being described. And Ashtanga Yoga involves moving the circulation of the air, prana, through these 6 chakras, and then in that way bring the soul to the last chakra which is on the top of the head. There is a reference to this in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks something about this. There's a talk about this in the 6th chapter and then in the 8th chapter. Prayana kale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak satham param purusham upaiti divyam. Prayana kale, just at the time of death, manasa achalena, with mind not wavering. Usually mind is chalena, moves around, flickering. Manasa achalena, bhakti yukto yoga balena chaiva, by practice of yoga balena. Bruvor madhye, between the eyebrows, referring to the one of the chakras known as the Agna chakra. Pranam aveshya samyak, pranam aveshya, placing the prana completely. Satam param purusham upaiti divyam, one can attain the param purusham, divyam param purusham. One who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport, in this verse it is clearly stated that at the time of death the mind must be fixed in devotion on the Supreme Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows. But for a pure devotee who does not practice such yoga, the mind should always be engaged in Krishna consciousness, so that at death he can remember the Supreme by His grace. This is explained in verse 14. So this is verse number 10. Verse number 10, 11, 12, 13 refers to the Shat Chakra Yoga. And that is mentioned here in the purport. The preceding verses mention 4 different kinds of people, etc. And so on. So the important point here is, Kapila was talking about Ashtanga Yoga. Asana, yama, niyama, pranayama, asana, dharana. And suddenly how is this Vaikuntha Leela has come here? Because Vaikuntha Leela, we understand, is bhakti, about devotion to the Lord. Actually, if one carefully studies the Vedic literatures, one will understand this. Any process of yoga, for it to yield results, one has to add bhakti to it. Without adding of bhakti element, that process of yoga will not yield the desired result. In fact, when karma is mixed with bhakti, it is called karma yoga. One has a nature to act, but one dovetails his nature to act for the pleasure of Krishna, then that becomes karma yoga. One is inquisitive to know, to understand certain things, and so he uses his speculative method to understand God. And so it becomes Jnana Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga, one is practicing the different asanas, all of that, by which one can come to understand the omnipresence of the Lord as Paramatma, for that an element of bhakti has to be added. It becomes Ashtanga or Dhyana Yoga. Without this element of bhakti being added, none of the processes will yield the desired result. That is why it is called Karma Mishra Bhakti. Karma Yoga is known as Karma Mishra Bhakti. Jnana Yoga, another word that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses, is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And similarly, Dhyana also has a little bit of bhakti added. Then it is called Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So these are by and large the three processes of realization of God that is recommended. But in all of these three processes, either through karma, jnana or yoga, an element of bhakti has to be added, and only then it will yield the desired result. But the process of Krishna consciousness is not to be dependent on karma, jnana, yoga, but to be fully dependent on bhakti alone. That is the 14th verse that Prabhupada is referring to after what I read just now, which was 8th chapter, 10th shloka. In the 14th chapter, so in the 10th chapter, in the 10th shloka, he's talking about Bruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak, which is dhyana. Ekakshanam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yat Yatayo Vitaragaha. That is also about Ashtanga Yoga in the 11th chapter. This 11th verse. 12th verse. Sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudhyacha, etc. Also referring to the Ashtanga. 13th one. Om ityekaksharam brahma vyaharan ma manusmaran. Also referring to that. Now after saying all of this, all of them have some bhakti element in it. Here it is saying ma manusmaran. So some element of remembering Krishna, which is bhakti element, is there. After saying all this, after these 4 verses describing the Ashtanga Yoga, Ananya Cheta Satatam Yomam Smaranti Nityasaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. These 4 verses which described are indirect methods, but now Arjuna, I will tell you something that is sulabha, tasyaham sulabha partha, something that can be done very easily, which is pure bhakti. Ananya chetaha satatam. No other thought. Ananya chetaha satatam yomam smarati nityashaha. Always thinking of Krishna. Tasyaham sulabha partha. By this method, I can easily be achieved. Nitya yuktasya yoginaha. So, in Krishna consciousness, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's system, having studied all of these Vedic literatures, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents that ultimately, whether it is Krishna in the Gita or in the Bhagavatam, which is actually the essence of all Vedic literatures, it is pure bhakti alone, which is self-sufficient. It does not depend on any other, because bhakti can bring about the perfections of other yoga systems and more. That is the process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends. So the karma yoga or the karma kanda, where bhakti is mixed. Karma kanda is one portion of the Vedic literatures which will help us attain celestial planets. Jnana kanda helps to attain oneness with Brahman. And yoga, another word is siddhi kanda. Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda and Siddhi Kanda, which is the yoga process by which one can attain Siddhi, and ultimately the intent of the yogi, true yogi, is to understand the omnipresence of the Lord as Paramatma. All of these are actually indirect methods and not recommended at all, especially for this age. Because there are too many difficulties in this age. We have a very short life, too many disturbances. Sattva guna is not very strongly prevalent in anyone. Always the rajas and tamas is constantly affecting us. Under these circumstances, pure bhakti is what is recommended. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was describing this to Sanatan Goswami, he tells this in the form of a very interesting story. There was a poor man, and being a poor man, he had all kinds of difficulties he was having. His food, shelter, home, clothing. Like a poor man has all kinds of problems. So one day, the poor man visited an astrologer in the village. And the astrologer, his name was Sarvagna. He was a very good astrologer. He knew everything. So, the astrologer Sarvagna saw the poor man and he said, "Oh, you are actually suffering because you are very poor. But your father had left a big treasure. But when he was traveling in some foreign land, he accidentally passed away. And so he could not tell you about the treasure that he has kept. And because you don't know that treasure that belongs to you, you are suffering." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, in the same way, every living entity has a treasure which is love of Krishna. Because each one of us have an intimate relationship with Krishna. Not just some kind of a formal relation, not just some kind of a distant relation. A very intimate relationship with Krishna. Each one of us. That's the treasure of every living entity. But we have no access to it now. We are in ignorance of it. And because we are in ignorance of that, we are suffering varieties of difficulties, threefold miseries. Adi Atmik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, Janma Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. All of these different kinds of miseries the living entity is experiencing. This is exactly our position. So, the Vedic literatures recommend that when one realizes that why am I suffering like this? Is there a solution? He must approach a spiritual master. Just like the poor man. Like poor people, when there is suffering, they go to an astrologer, hoping that he may give some relief. In the same way, the living entity, when he wants to find a solution to all of these problems, he must go to a bona fide, pure devotee who is representative of Krishna. But in Kali Yuga, it is said that we are unfortunate. So we may try to look for some remedy for our miseries, but not always we will have the good fortune of meeting a pure devotee. There are too many people who are calling themselves gurus, and we may fall victim to them. And they will also prescribe some other materialistic process only. Or they may at most recommend some karma kanda, jnana kanda solutions which also are full of trouble. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. It is not enough if the astrologer tells the poor man, there was a treasure. Your father left a treasure behind, but he did not inform you. Actually, you possess that treasure. You own that treasure. The treasure belongs to you. If that is told, it is not enough. So next, the poor man's question will be, is there a way I can know where the treasure is and how I can get the treasure? You see, the first information the astrologer gave, there is a treasure and that belongs to you. You must get that. So that is called Sambandha Jnana. Vedic literatures provide Sambandha Jnana, knowledge about our relationship with Krishna. And not knowing that we are suffering in this material world, pursuing varieties of desires that the living entity develops. I'll be happy with money. I'll be happy with position. I'll be happy with a big bungalow. I'll be happy with a big car. These are all the hopes of a living entity. If I become freed from this disease I have, I'll become happy. These are the hopes. So, next important thing the poor suffering man sought from the astrologer was, is there a way I can get the treasure? How can I get the treasure? And then the astrologer said, yes, I will tell you how to get that treasure. And that is known as Abhidheya Jnana. That is the second important information in the Vedic literatures. How to get that treasure. So, the astrologer said, now the treasure is hidden somewhere under the ground. Oh, so the poor man said, oh, how can I get it? Then he said, if you approach the treasure from the southern side, there will be wasps and drones which will come and attack you and bite you. You cannot get the treasure. So the poor old man was suffering man. So, if you try to approach the treasure from the western side, there is one yaksha, ghost there. He will come and disturb you and you will not get your treasure. So no. If you approach the treasure from the northern side, there is one black serpent there and the serpent will bite you. So, almost hopeless. Then the astrologer said, but if you approach from the eastern side, you will get the treasure. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that the southern side, wasps and drones which will come and bite him, that refers to the Karmakanda process. Because in Karmakanda process, Karma Kanda, and that's very close to the Karma Kanda. One level higher is Karma Yoga. You have a tendency to work in a certain way, and with some knowledge about Krishna, you work for Krishna, and so you make progress. So in the Karma Kanda process, the inclination to enjoy is encouraged in a regulated way. So that is a very dangerous path, because that inclination to enjoy is very, very strong. We will be lost. Other wasps and drones will come and keep biting us with more and more desires. So regulations will not work. And so Karma Kanda process, especially in Kali Yuga, will not work. The western side was a ghost he talked about. And the ghost, that western approach is the Jnana Kanda. It's like a ghost haunting a living entity to realize Brahman, to become one with Brahman, and which is also not enable him to get the real treasure of his intimate relation with Krishna. And from the north is the process of yoga, which is like a black serpent, which is also full of difficulties and will not help. And the process on the eastern side refers to the bhakti, which is the safest method. And then the astrologer says, if you approach on the eastern side and then get that bhakti, get the treasure, then that treasure will end all your miseries and will lead you to complete joy, which is prayojana, knowledge. So Vedic literatures basically has this three information: sambandha jnana, abhidheya jnana, and prayojana jnana. This is the understanding that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about. But then, what happens in the entire body of Vedic knowledge? All of this knowledge is presented. Imagine the situation, how it must have been. Today we have telephone, internet, all of these kind of things are there. We travel. Imagine thousands of years ago, how it must have been in our country. The fastest method of travel for the common man was a bullock cart. Maybe kings could go on horses, but for the common man, it was mostly the bullock cart, which is not very fast, we know. So, and people lived all over in small villages and that kind of a situation. And mostly people would desire, especially in South India, once in a lifetime, if I go to Kashi, Banaras, and take a dip in Ganga. Similarly, people in North India, they would think, once in a lifetime, if I can come to Rameshwar. Right? That's how mostly people were thinking like that. Now we have every year going to Vrindavan, every year coming to Rameshwar. All this has become possible now because of travel, all of those things. So, those days, there were many spiritualists. And those spiritualists had spiritual knowledge. And they would teach their disciples. And the disciples, according to their level of inquisitiveness and wanting to learn, the teacher could teach. Not necessarily always the teachers had the highest knowledge. So they were all over and here and there, and different methods of understanding. All of this was prevalent. And 5,000 years ago, for the first time, Vyasadeva, an incarnation of the Lord, under the inspiration of the Lord, he started putting them all down. All of this knowledge present everywhere, putting them in the written form. And definitely there was the Karma Kanda sections, which is very suitable for very, very preliminary level of spirituality, because they are completely inclined towards enjoying this world, and how to regulate them, how to bring them to the path of some spiritual path. So tell them about the various devatas, and you worship this devata, you will get this benefit, you will get good wife, you will get money, you will get fame, you can overcome the enemies, you can have good children, all of this. This is actually the Vedas. Vedas are full of methods of sacrifices and the process of worshipping the different devatas, the mantras that you must chant, and how by doing these, chanting these mantras and doing this worship doing these different sacrifices, you will get all of these worldly desires that you want to fulfill. So like this, lot of knowledge is there. Then there is the Upanishads, which are more spiritual knowledge. But then Upanishads by themselves, one may not understand because it's very terse, very, very philosophical. Then there are the Puranas. The Puranas describe various histories of the world. And then in the Puranas also there are people, it is meant for, some Puranas are meant for people at a very, very preliminary age, like the Karma Kanda people are. Some are little more, some are for Tamasic Puranas, Rajasic Puranas, Sattvic Puranas. Then Veda Vyasa wrote the Mahabharata, all of that. Then the Srimad Bhagavatam came about. So like this, the Vedic literatures, the Vedic knowledge is so varied. Recently, I came across one visitor. I was having a visitor in the temple. And this person was talking about, this person used one interesting word, curating knowledge. Of course, this was some discussion, something came up about what happens in today's internet and mobile apps and all of those kind of things. To curate information. Actually, the word curate, if you remember, I remember going to a museum. There was a museum near the school where I was studying. And so I used to see the board, the main person in a museum, he's called a curator. Right? The word curate actually means to gather, to select, to arrange, and to present. This is what a museum curator does. He gathers, he selects, he arranges, and presents it to the museum visitors. That's why he is known as a curator. So, curating ideas, curating, actually, if you see, this kind of a thought came to the minds of the sages of Naimisharanya. When the sages assembled in Naimisharanya, one of the 6 questions they asked, Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyani vibhagashaha. Shrotavyani, knowledge which is heard and understood. And based on that knowledge, there are certain duties, certain action that you must do. This is called karmani. Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyani vibhagashaha. But in the Vedic literatures, this shrotavyani and karmani, what has to be learned and heard, and what is the duty, what is the action we have to do, it is described in the Vedic literatures. But bhurini bhuri karmani, there are too many in number. The Vedic instructions are too many. Vedic directions are too many. Duties recommended in the Vedic literatures are too many. Bhurini bhuri. Bhuri means multifarious. Bhurini bhuri karmani shrotavyani vibhagashaha. Atha sadhotra yat saram samudritya manishaya. Atha, therefore, sadho, O sage. The sages were referring to Sutta Goswami. Atha sadhotra saram samudritya. Please now, this Vedic knowledge is so multifarious. Saram samudritya. Samudritya means you please select. You please select. And how do you select? Randomly select? No. Samudritya manishaya. Very thoughtfully, very intelligently, you please select the saram. Atha sadhotra yat saram samudritya manishaya. Bruhi badraya bhutana. And then you present that to us. Bruhi. Then you tell us. Bruhi badrani bhutana yena atma suprasidati. And you must tell us that by which all living entities can find complete satisfaction. Actually, this question that the sages are asking is about curating all of the Vedic knowledge that is present everywhere in the country. According to different levels, the Vedic knowledge is of different levels. According to the different level of the teacher and according to the students that he was having. Varieties of knowledge. but it is scattered everywhere. Even when Veda Vyasa wrote, all of this is there in so many Vedic literature. But now, Atha sadhotrayat saram samudrutya manishaya. Please take that essence and present it. Bruhi bhadraya bhutanam. So actually what the sages of Naimisharanya, they were an attempting curating of all the Vedic knowledge. And that's how the Bhagavatam comes about. And then, after Bhagavatam was presented also, still there was all kinds of misunderstanding. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the similar thing, curating, taking all of this knowledge and presenting that to the 6 Goswamis. And the 6 Goswamis, in turn, what they did, again they further curated all of this knowledge in a written form in their books. That is why you will see Rupa Goswami or Jiva Goswami, when he wrote the Shat Sandarbhas, what he is doing, he is taking all of this knowledge and arranging. The Shat Sandarbha is basically a very, very careful study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What are the 6 subjects of the Bhagavatam? He is analyzing them. He is presenting them in this canto, in that canto, this verse, that verse. And then he is also corroborating that from the other Vedic literatures. This Purana says, that Purana. Arranging them, all of them in a systematic way. This is what the Goswamis did. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipuno Saddharma Samsthapako. They were very well versed in the Vedic literature. They could pick off from all of them and establish what is the Saddharma, what is the highest religion. So they were doing curation. And then finally, all of this is in Sanskrit language. And again, it is too vast. Finally, Srila Prabhupada presented them in English language, in a simple way. Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they also did. But still, to reach an international audience, it required to present it in an English language. Because it is accepted in the Vedic literatures that this knowledge is too multifarious, and to get to the real essence is very, very, very difficult. Tarko apratishtaha shrutayo vibhinnaha naso rushiryasya matham na bhinnam. If you use logic, logic is inconclusive. If you read all the Vedic literatures, there are too many in number. Shrutayo vibhinna. Because it is meant for different levels of people. In the human society, there are all kinds of people. Just like if you go to a school, there will be first standard children, second standard children, 10th standard children, 12th standard children. All kinds. So there are different textbooks. You can't give a child, first standard child, a 12th standard textbook. You can't give a first standard child, 12th standard child, a first standard textbook. All kinds of there won't be proper effective education. So like this, all of these Vedic literatures are there. But then people don't know all this. There is gradation. What is the higher? What is higher knowledge? What is the basis on which somebody is considered higher or lower? It is on the basis of the modes of material nature that is influencing them. When somebody is influenced by Rajoguna and Tamoguna, their inclinations will be very much after sense gratification, power, position. These things will excite them. What excites you determines your level. This is the understanding in the Vedic literature. What is it that you are excited about? You are excited about sense gratification, then that means your level of consciousness is there. You are not excited about sense gratification because you understand it's temporary. I am excited about something much higher. Then you are at a sattva guna, more and more sattva guna. Now if you are in that sattva guna and higher sattva guna, then you are capable of understanding higher things. So then such a person should be given higher knowledge. What is the use of giving for a first standard student, you give him big advanced mathematics textbook? Poor child, what can the child do? He cannot understand. He's not in the position to understand that. In the same way, Veda Vyasa wrote all of these Vedic literatures. But not everybody knows these things. It requires curation, gathering, selecting, arranging them, and representing for the people of this age. That is why the Mahabharata verse says, Tarko apratishtaha shrutayo vibhinnaha daso rishir yasya matam na binnam. If you go and ask the rishis, matam binnam matam, all of them have different opinions. Because they are all at some level and they are excited about one kind of knowledge or activity and they are engaged in that. So what is the highest conclusion? And that highest conclusion is dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhaya. That if you want to know the truth, the ultimate truth, what is the purpose of all these things? It is hidden in the heart of a self-realized soul. Nihitam guhaya. Dharmasya tattvam. The truth about dharma. Nihitam guhaya. So what is the opportunity? So what shall we do? Mahajana yena gataha sapantaha. So where such people, Mahajanas, who have captured in their heart the essence of wisdom, Vedic wisdom, we have to follow in their footsteps. And such great Mahatmas are very rare. Not easy. So we must remember that this is the situation, and we have been blessed with Srila Prabhupada's books and knowledge, and we can read his books, we can understand, and we can serve his mission. Once Srila Prabhupada was in London, and he was in his room and he was very grave. There was just one or two devotees with him at that time. And he was very grave. And suddenly, there was a teardrop in his eyes. Prabhupada just remained grave. He didn't say anything. And the devotee who observed that didn't know what to say. He just was silent, and it was a very grave moment. After about 15 minutes or so, the devotee gathered some courage and asked, Srila Prabhupada, you were thinking about something that moved you so much? So Prabhupada said, yes, I was thinking about those two devotees in Hong Kong. One husband-wife couple was there. I was thinking about those two devotees. They have sacrificed everything. And they're working so hard to please me. I was thinking about them. So, Prabhupada is sitting in London, and those two devotees are in Hong Kong, among thousands of devotees that Prabhupada had. But Prabhupada was very moved that they had sacrificed everything and they were struggling and working hard to please him, by which he was moved. This spiritual principle and phenomena is relevant and applicable even now. Srila Prabhupada is in the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada is simultaneously with us too. Through his words, through his instructions, through his mission, through his institution. And if we can also do this, sacrifice everything and work to please him, it can move Srila Prabhupada. And this is our only hope. We must be ready to sacrifice everything and try to please Srila Prabhupada. This is the essence. We will attain spiritual perfection. This may not be known to many people. People may be struggling to figure out what is the sum and substance and all of that. The sum and substance is this: please a pure devotee and serve him and please him, and by his blessing we will attain perfection. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.